How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am back for another comic book video. I know I had a little bit of color and sound issues on the last video. Time of the day of the recording played a large part in that, which I shouldn't have a problem with that this time. So, I am back to do more Golden Age Australian comic book superheroes. So, superheroes from the Golden Age in Australian comic books. There is a quote that I found that's a little bit of a history lesson of the creation of the Golden Age heroes from Australia. This is an interesting one. Without the Second World War, there would have been no Australian comic book industry. The wartime ban on imported publications meant local publishers had a captive market, which dominated through the 1940s and early 50s. There were similar bans in Britain and Canada. The local comic industry suffered two body blows in the 1950s. The arrival of television in Australia in 1956, followed by the resumption of imported full-colored American comics. I wasn't actually familiar with the word resumption. This meant the imports were back, coming from America, were coming back in. To continue this, local titles could not compete with either of these, and most local publishers had left the field by the early 1960s. Now, this just shows this is why Australian came up with their own comic books, because there was a vacuum that needed to be filled that the Golden Age comic books were able to do, but with the television and the imports being lifted, they couldn't compete. So that's why nobody really knows about these. These are more like lost heroes. And that's also why the information on these are very hard to find. Since they only existed for the time that they were in, there wasn't a large set of publications done with them, and there's not a whole lot of information documented about them. I am doing my best to find all the photos and information I can. That's why in my last video there were very few photos. Now I am doing my best. I am putting my Google food to the max, trying to find every possible way of narrowing down some pictures or photos or whatever you guys can see, so that you guys can get an idea of what I am reviewing. If the photos are going to be very limited, I apologize. I am doing my best to find these, and also with the information. So let's go ahead and cover 3 more Australian superheroes from the Golden Age. First on this list is Captain Justice. Captain Justice, real name Lance Harwood, first appeared in Fatty Finn's comics. Now, I don't have the exact issue that he appeared in. Fatty Finn's comics first appeared on, its first publication was in 1927. And since these pictures seem to be in black and white, I'm going to guess that he appeared fairly early on. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 1927. I'm going to go in the 30s. He may have even appeared in the first issue. I'm not entirely sure. He is a normal human and a journalist. See, he does not have any superpowers. He is a good fighter and skilled at surviving in the outback, and that would be Australia. Now, Lance Harwood presented himself as a cultured gentleman, and he was a journalist. He was also a masked crime fighter known as Captain Justice, bringing down outlaws and bushrangers. What bushrangers were basically crooks and thieves. They would steal from either houses or coaches. I had to look up bushrangers because I've never heard the term before. Apparently, in Australia, some bushrangers were even looked at to be heroes. He was often accused of being a bush ranger himself and was in danger of being shot by the state troopers. Like I said, some of the bush rangers were looked at as being heroes. He was concerned more with justice than he was with the law. He would try to convince criminals to give themselves up rather than putting them 6 feet under. He eventually would end up going to America to fight criminals in the Wild West. He was created by Monty Wedd, and that the last name is spelled W-E-D-D. I'm looking at the information, and it looks like, even though the story was printed in the 30s, late 20s, early 30s, it looks like the era of which he appeared in would be the 1880s, which would make sense if he came to America to be a Wild West crime fight, or if he came to the Wild West, because there was no Wild West in the 1920s, not as we knew it back then. Okay, the next one is going to be a twofer. Introducing one introduces the other. First, we're going to be doing Captain Havoc. Captain Havoc, Anthony Havoc, first appeared in The Adventures of Captain Havoc and the Phantom Knight. Now, I don't see it labeled as an individual issue, but I am fairly certain that this comic came out in 1947. Captain Havoc is a normal pilot, a normal human. He's a skilled pilot, and he flies a plane that he helped invent called the Sky Rover. It is highly maneuverable and capable of interstellar flight. After helping to design this interstellar plane, Captain Havoc went on an exploratory space mission and discovered the planet Karen. K-A-R-E-N. Okay. Havoc and his fellows, and I'm not sure who was with the crew, probably the professor that helped him create this, they befriended the Carians, and they would also introduce themselves to the Prince Kirsten. They aided the Carians against the evil Arcturanians. I'm doing my best to pronounce these. Against the Arcturanians, and helped to defeat them. Later, Captain Havoc would find out that the Earth is being threatened. I don't know how he would receive this transmission, but apparently he did. And they were being threatened by Zero-Sations, which is a race of men that lived on top of an invisible floating island hovering over the North Pole. I'm not making this up, it's exactly what this says. Captain Havoc would return home accompanied by Kirsten. That would be the Superhuman Prince. The Superhuman Prince would be nicknamed the Phantom Knight by another member of the expedition, and they would work together to destroy the Zero-Sations, and they went on to defend Earth from a dozen of other threats created by John Libris and Don Ryan. The Phantom Knight, Prince Kirsten, he is an extraterrestrial Carian, as I just mentioned when I was covering Captain Havoc. The powers of the Phantom Knight, he has the ability to become invisible and fly. He has superhuman strength and a visor that allows him to see invisible objects. He was dubbed the Phantom Knight by Gloria Starr, which was one of the people on the exhibition. I have no idea who that is. He did decide to return to Earth to help Captain Havoc as he also helped him on his planet. Now, this is an Australian superhero, and it looks like it's coming out of New Zealand. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope I gave you enough information so you can get an idea of, well, you got about as much information as I have. Look, Superman. I mean, I'm a total sellout. Okay, well, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there's enough information for you, and I will be coming out with another video soon. Until then, I'll be seeing you.